Washington remained tense as lawmakers rushed through negotiations to keep the federal government funded, with intense late-night meetings and sharp exchanges on the House and Senate floors. The temporary agreement prevented an immediate shutdown, but it exposed deep divisions between parties over spending priorities, social programs, and defense budgets. Many lawmakers admitted the deal was only a short-term fix, pushing the hardest decisions into the future. Outside Congress, federal workers and the public watched closely, relieved that services would continue for now, yet uncertain about what the next budget deadline might bring. Immigration quickly became one of the most heated national issues as expanded ICE operations led to a surge of public debate across the country. Supporters of the policy argued that stricter enforcement was necessary to maintain border security and uphold the rule of law. At the same time, civil rights organizations and community leaders raised concerns about human rights, family separations, and the impact on immigrant communities. Protests were held in several major cities while lawmakers faced pressure from voters on both sides of the issue. The discussion highlighted a deep divide in public opinion, making immigration reform one of the most challenging topics in Washington. Legal tensions intensified as fresh court filings and hearings kept the justice system at the center of national attention. High-profile cases involving senior political figures fueled nonstop media coverage, with analysts debating the legal and political consequences. Supporters framed the proceedings as accountability under the law, while critics claimed they reflected partisan motivations. Judges urged calm and respect for legal processes as protests and strong reactions appeared both online and on the streets. The developments underscored how closely law and politics are now intertwined in shaping public trust in U.S. institutions. Foreign policy discussions grew more intense as U.S. officials reviewed strategies toward ongoing international conflicts and rising global tensions. Lawmakers held closed-door briefings on military readiness, aid to allies, and diplomatic efforts aimed at preventing further escalation. Some leaders emphasized the need for strong defense and deterrence, while others called for dialogue and international cooperation to avoid prolonged conflicts. Public opinion remained mixed, with many Americans concerned about the costs of overseas involvement and its impact on the economy at home. The debate reflected the challenge of balancing national security interests with diplomacy in an increasingly complex global landscape. Economic concerns dominated conversations as new data painted a mixed picture of the U.S. economy. While job growth remained steady in several industries, many Americans continued to struggle with rising prices for housing, food, and healthcare. Small businesses reported pressure from higher operating costs, and consumers became more cautious with spending. Policymakers debated how to manage inflation without slowing economic growth, weighing interest rate decisions and fiscal measures. For everyday families, the focus stayed on affordability and financial stability, making the economy a defining issue in public discourse. Technology took center stage as major U.S. companies announced large investments in artificial intelligence and automation. Supporters highlighted the potential for innovation, efficiency, and new economic opportunities, especially in healthcare, education, and manufacturing. However, critics warned about job displacement, data privacy risks, and the lack of clear regulations. Lawmakers began discussing frameworks to oversee AI development, aiming to balance innovation with public safety and ethical concerns. The rapid pace of technological change left many Americans both excited and uneasy about how it would reshape work and daily life. Severe winter storms swept across multiple regions, disrupting daily life and testing the nation's infrastructure. Heavy snowfall and icy conditions led to flight cancellations, highway closures, and power outages affecting thousands of households. Emergency crews worked around the clock to restore electricity and keep roads open, while local governments declared weather emergencies in several states. The extreme conditions renewed debate about climate resilience, with officials and experts calling for stronger infrastructure and better preparedness to handle increasingly unpredictable weather patterns. The media landscape continued to shift as major national companies moved to acquire regional and local news outlets. Supporters of these deals argued that larger organizations could provide financial stability, modern technology, and wider reach for struggling newspapers. Critics, however, worried that consolidation might reduce local voices, cut newsroom jobs, and weaken community-focused reporting. Journalists and readers alike questioned how these changes would affect accountability and coverage of local issues. The debate highlighted the broader challenge facing American media: how to survive economically while preserving independent and trustworthy journalism. Across the country, public opinion remains sharply divided on nearly every major issue, from government spending to immigration and foreign policy. Town halls, rallies, and community meetings drew passionate crowds, with citizens voicing strong support or opposition to current policies. Online platforms amplified these debates, often intensifying partisan divisions and spreading both information and misinformation. Protests and grassroots campaigns reflected the growing desire for direct engagement as Americans sought to influence lawmakers and national decisions. This climate of heightened civic involvement underscored the intensity of political engagement and the challenges of finding common ground in a deeply polarized society.